Occasionally, state specialists get calls and emails from producers who are interested in starting farming, or I guess they're potential producers who are interested in starting farming, and they wonder where to begin. Are there rules and regulations, laws that might apply to them? Do they need permits? And so we've invited Nathan Anderson, who's the Extension Educator Agriculture here in Payne County, to help talk about some of the issues that may be specific to local communities and to talk about just the need to understand rules and regulations in urban areas that may be different from more rural areas when you're starting production agriculture. So welcome, Nathan. And we've got a couple of questions to start with, and we'll just have a discussion as you relay your answers if there are other thoughts that come to mind that we may have gotten from producers. So Nathan, if someone asks you if they need a permit to farm, what do you tell them?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. The first answer you really want to say to this is actually no. There's not specific permits that are needed to farm. But we always, before we do that, we always have to ask many questions. Location, are you in city limits? Is it owned land? Is it rented land? Just find out a knowledge base of the people that's trying to get involved. Some people come up with ideas that they're going to start a commercial garden in their backyard and have absolutely no knowledge to it. So we have to ask a lot of questions to get an idea of their knowledge base on farming or urban agriculture of any form, whether it be animal, horticulture related crops or whatever. There is actually not a permit to farm unless there are some city ordinances that are in effect in their community. So
Okay.
unless there's local permits to be purchased, there are not any state or federal permits that have to be permitted to allow this to happen.
Yeah, thanks. So that's a good point about what's the land base as well, in terms of there may not be permits required to farm, but you certainly should have an agreement with your landlord if you're renting land about how that
Sure.
land might be used.
That's
So,
that can cause some major problems between leaseors and lessees.
okay. Another question. What statewide rules and regulations should people be aware of when engaging in agriculture in urban areas? So kind of a follow-up to that permit question.
When I think of this question, it is usually related to the horticulture related crops, and especially those that are trying to do a value added process. Then if they are doing a value added process, if they're growing fruits and vegetables and they're going to process them to add additional value to them, then there would be some state laws and some regulations, and that would be regulated through Oklahoma Department of Ag. Uh, they may have to have, if a kitchen is involved, the health department may be, the county health department may be involved if they are processing if they're having to cook or process it in another form. I've known people anywhere from processing fruits and vegetables to selling eggs to selling retail cuts of meat. So when you are dealing with the food product that is value added or enhanced in some way, there are specific rules related to the food safety issues. Now, I do want to bring up on this question that you asked. There is a new federal law that's coming into effect, and I think it either has just or fixing to come into effect that will affect a lot of people, and it is the Food Safety Act. And this Food Safety Act will reach people. It is based on gross sales and end users' use of the product. So there is a new federal law that's coming out called the Food Safety Act that everything hasn't really been spelled out at this time of this recording, but it is coming down the pike, and we will be affected by, or some will be affected by this if they are processing any of their agricultural crops.
Thanks. I know there are some people going to training at national levels now to be prepared to deliver information about I think it's referred to as FSMA, the Food Modernization Safety Act. Um, so I note that our Food and Ag Product Center on campus is a good resource for people who are looking for more guidance on kind of value-added food things, and so would encourage people to contact the Food and Ag Product Center if in fact they're looking at value-added products.
Yes, I
They
have
can.
sent numerous people, numerous clientele to FAPSI to manipulate, especially recipes, to make bulk orders or bulk sales, and they have been very instrumental. And I tell you another resource also, through the Extension Service, we have the area application engineers, and
Okay.
I have utilized them also in development of conveyors or irrigation systems that would be benefit to small farm or urban farm situations. So that those can be a great resource also.
Another thought that came to mind was just things like chemical applications. So, are there things like that that people who haven't been in agriculture might need to know about, particularly if they're near an urban area?
Yes, when you get on a commercial level, for personal use, we have the private applicator packets in all the
Okay.
extension offices. That allows you to buy, uh, let's say, the second tier or the next level of herbicides that are considered restricted use. If you are spraying it for yourself, you just need a private applicator's license, but you have to obtain this license, pass the test, pay for the license, and then that license is good. I think it's still for a 5-year period, and that allows you to buy certain formulations of herbicides, insecticides, fungicides, those type of things that are restricted use and take additional education to ensure the proper application. So
So, but
only in certain pesticides require uh, this license to be purchased.
okay. So if they're using off-the-shelf kinds of chemicals and they're just doing it for themselves in the backyard, there's no special permits or rules or regulations that would be required of them. But if they're doing something more on a commercial scale, and if they wanted to have access to these additional pesticides or herbicides, they would need the private applicator packet. Did I
Yes,
understand
that
correctly?
that is correct. Yes, it is.
Okay. Anything else that comes to mind? Regulations?
Um, as far as always consideration, it goes back to the value added and processing. If there's any kind of processing, permits may be required through the health department and frequent checks, especially if kitchen is involved where there's mixing various products, cross contamination threats, meat products. So check with your health department and Oklahoma Department of Ag, and they would tell you if any other additional permits would be required.
All right, great. So you have some experience in a community that's sort of urban, but nothing like Tulsa or Oklahoma City, but there are rules and regulations that are local in nature. And so talk to us about where people need to go to ask within a community, what offices, how do they find out about what's applicable to them?
The first thing that comes to mind when you stated this question is there has been a huge increase in backyard poultry flocks. Every community is different. Some have regulations and rules and ordinances, others do not. Um, some of these ordinances may be so old that the people in those communities probably don't know where to find them. But here in Stillwater, I can tell you that we have found it in the ordinances, and it's deep down in the bowels of years ago for ordinances. Uh, chickens, you can have chickens in the city limits. They cannot be within 100 150 feet of a dwelling. And there's not a limitation on how many birds you can have, but you are not allowed to have any roosters. So the backyard poultry flock, as long as you meet those guidelines, you're within city ordinances, and therefore you're legal. The way to find out, and I would encourage, regardless of what community that you're in, if you're going to start this, probably the best resource you could do is call that city attorney. And they are supposed to be able to tell you what those ordinances are regarding that community based on livestock, or if there's any other ag related that is unknown. But the city attorney should be a viable source for you to find out what regulations or what ordinances are in the books for you to be facing regarding this project you're about to take on.
Okay, great. So you maybe have addressed this a bit already. So the local extension offices would certainly be one point of contact for knowing about the local area. But I heard you say the city attorney in different
Yes.
communities would also be. Are there?
Yes. Another valuable resource also is if they do have a farmer's market, there's probably people that are involved in that farmer's market that have already faced the questions that you're asking. So that farmer's market group could be a very good asset to try to find out some of these questions, and probably have already faced the questions that you're asking. That if you don't have any luck there, or you want to verify what you've been told, then call the city attorney, and they should be able to allow you to give you the actual ordinance that says the regulations that are involved in that community.
All right, that's a great suggestion. So is there anything that you're hearing about on the horizon that might result in changing regulations that might impact urban ag?
Well, I'm not hearing anything, but just kind of speculating as far as you see, the urban poultry has greatly increased in the last couple of years, and I'm not going to say it's a fad. It's a very viable operation, and I believe it's a very positive thing. But some things that, if I'm trying to foresee into the future, I think this Food Safety Act is going to be something that is very important for any urban agriculture people to be aware of. That's one that we need to watch for the future. The pesticide restrictions, the situation with people that have not, let's say, have a background in agriculture, and they engage in these and they start using these pesticides, whether it be insecticides, fungicides, herbicides, there is going to be some misapplication or misuse or mismixture, and there's going to be damage to other properties, and we could see increased restrictions as far as pesticides. Many of you know that many viable pesticides that we've had in the past have been removed from the shelf due to overuse or misuse. So I think that is a common thing that we're going to continue to see more and more pesticides being removed if there's any kind of contamination, especially to local water supplies. And then the other thing, I think, trying to foresee the future, with an increase in these backyard poultry operations, the avian influenza outbreaks that have happened in commercial flocks, now they're starting to be seen in some backyard flocks. Not in our state, but in other states. And if there is a backyard flock that contracts this avian influenza, I'm sure we will see some further regulations on backyard poultry operations if that does happen.
Nathan, you talked a little bit about pesticide regulations for our urban or prospective urban ag folks that might want to get into raising some crops or some vegetables or whatever the case may be. Would there be some similar concerns or issues related to livestock operations and the use of livestock medications, and maybe talk about the importance, especially given some recent changes in the rules, the importance of developing a relationship with a local veterinarian if you're going to be involved in any kind of livestock, including poultry.
Yes, excellent question. I'm glad you brought that part up. Just like with the pesticides on the crop and horticulture and agronomic sides of it, uh, now the overuse or misuse, or however you want to determine, however you'd like to state that, with any feed additive antibiotic, you must have a veterinarian relationship and get a VFD. Um, that is the veterinarian writing you a prescription. So you have to have that relationship. They must know the client. They must know the patient, so to speak, have a working relationship with them to ensure they know how to apply this feed additive, this antibiotic that is a feed additive to prevent certain things. And that goes for all livestock. That's not just large animal. That could be with the poultry. Uh, when the VFD rule started in January of this year, um, there is a rule in there that, and this is another urban concern. Those that have beehives and harvest honey, there is a condition that the bees get that an antibiotic is used, and actually those people that have beehives should have a VFD to buy the antibiotic to cure this infection. How many veterinarians do you know work on bees? Most of them are small animal pet, large animal agriculture projects. But it still requires a VFD, and you're going to have to find a vet that is willing to write you a VFD to use this antibiotic in that. And it's a very critical thing in this bees. It's a very common problem. So you're going to have to find a vet that will write a veterinarian feed directive for you to use this medication to treat those bees. So that is a new twist, not only for urban agriculture, but for large scale agriculture, because that just started in January of this year. Very good question.
And I think your discussion there just continues to highlight the importance for people to learn as much as they can about best management practices, regardless of the type of agriculture that they're intending to get involved in or getting started in. And so that can start with going to your local extension office and gathering as much information as you can, reaching out to producers who are in the similar field to learn from them as well, but continuing to learn and staying alert to changes in rules and regulations, understanding what's going on in the local community. So
This is just my suggestion. If I was someone living in town and wanted to start an agriculture project, I would go to the county extension office first to find out and ask these similar questions, because the people in the extension office can, and the educators there can direct you to valuable resources. I would also, if it, based on the project you were trying, the endeavor you was trying to accomplish, I would also probably visit the city attorney to make sure you're not breaking any ordinances in your community. If there was any food processing whatsoever I would contact the county health department to ensure that there are not any other rules beyond the community. I would contact Oklahoma Department of Ag to see if any other permits were required for you to be legal to conduct this agricultural project you're about to delve into.
Thanks, Nathan.
That,
I think that's a great synthesis of what we've talked about in this session. So,
yes, I agree. That was a great summary there of what a person needs to do to find out whether they're following all the rules and how to engage in the enterprise in the best way that they can.
Well, you know, many agriculture projects or agriculture production enterprises, there's always a monetary factor involved. And you go in and invest, whether you're investing in beehives or you want to raise backyard rabbits or backyard poultry, there's always investments. And you hate to invest in all that and then find out that every neighbor around you is turning you in because you're breaking all the ordinances. So find out all the rules first before you to go and try to invest in a ag commodity type project, and it'll save you a lot of heartache sometimes.
great. Any final thoughts? Anything we haven't yet covered?
You have to stay aware, and through the extension office, we are constantly pouring out information and up-to-date current information that is research-based. And if these are people that are new to the field of agriculture, we live in a society today that wants immediate answers. They can get on the internet, they can Google a question, and they can find an answer. And I know many of you are aware of the same thing. A lot of times people come to us after they've figured out that they've got the wrong answer, and then we help them fix the problem and then solve the solution also. So if you're going to research information on the internet, make sure that you have viable people that you're depending on for your answers. And the only way to do that is make sure that they are research-based information, and that comes from a land-grant university. And our land-grant university, of course, is Oklahoma State University. There are other universities that would have similar information or may have additional information. Make sure they are a land-grant university. There are a lot of individuals out there trying to sell product and that are not research-based. We're going to give you the honest answer, good or bad, whether it's the answer you want to hear or not. It's going to be a proven answer. So that's why I suggest you have a research-based supply of information, and that's what you're going to get from Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service.
Thanks, Nathan. And second that in terms of you want unbiased information, extension, and your land grant university is the place to start for that information.
Yes, it is.